How often do you use a computer? Well, if you're watching this video, you're probably using a computer right now. Computers are essential to being a productive member of society, and the majority of jobs that exist today will require at least some sort of knowledge of computer use. But how many people really know what makes a computer work? I built my first computer around 5 years ago. Since then, I have built 4 more computers for my children, friends, and family. I wanted to learn a new skill that is very relevant for our time and build something unique that I could call my own. I also have discussions constantly with other people interested in building their own PC, so I keep that concept going. We're all students at COD taking an online class. As you know, this requires a use of a computer. Maybe you're using a mobile device or a laptop, but have you ever wanted your own desktop workstation for more than just schoolwork? There are so many uses for computers, and knowing how to build and update your own can be very rewarding. Today I'll go over the basic process of starting your own computer build. We'll see how to evaluate our personal computer needs and wants, and what parts are required to begin your own personal build. At the end of this speech, I hope you feel more confident and knowledgeable to tackle your own build, or at very least, learn the basics of what make a computer work. First, we'll assess the level of performance that fit our individual needs. Then, we will review the parts required to assemble our computer to make it work. Finally, I will talk about the process of assembling and preparing it for its first boot up. First, we need to evaluate our personal computing needs and wants. In the early days of computers, these devices were usually huge and consumed an incredible amount of power, typically taking up an entire room. In the early 70s, Intel produced the first commercial microprocessor and ultimately led to the development of the personal computer. From Personal Computer 2018. As the years went on, computer processors became smaller and smaller. Now, we all enjoy microcomputers that we can carry around in our pocket and accomplish an amazing number of tasks with ease. Ask yourself, what will you be using this computer for? You must consider both your basic needs and whatever else you want the computer to be able to do for you. In the 1980s, a distinct class of personal computer owners emerged that were all motivated by instrumental goals rather than hackers and hobbyists. From Nooney, 2020. Let's start with our own needs. Some items to evaluate are: what basic tasks will you be performing on a day-to-day basis? Are you accessing classes online, preparing text-based documents only, or will you be creating graphic art? Do you plan to play video games? Maybe you're processing video clips or editing your own movies for a job, or a film major, or just as a hobby. All of these things will require a different level of computer component needs. So it is vital to think through all of these activities before you begin to compile your list of components. Now that we've established what our needs and wants are, it's time to start learning about the components that we need to make our computer work. Let's talk about the basic components required and their purpose to assemble our computer so that it operates as it should. All computers require specific parts just to operate. Like a car, you can have a complete car with an engine, but you can't just leave out the battery and expect your car to run. The first component needed is called a motherboard. The motherboard is what all of the components connect to so that they can communicate with each other and perform their specific tasks. From Computer Shopper 2019. The next item is a CPU, or Central Processing Unit. This is the brain of the computer, and it handles all of the computations. From Funk and Wagnalls 2018. You will also need storage that you can store all of your files and applications. This is known to most as a hard drive, but there are many varieties of storage, and the type you choose will depend on your performance needs. You can also use multiple types of storage within the same computer to serve different needs. From Computer Shopper 2019. Next up is memory or RAM. Memory sounds like storage, but it differs from storage in the fact that it is temporary versus permanent. It helps run applications actively on the computer. If you plan on playing video games or watching videos, creating graphic art, you will need a GPU or a graphics processing unit. Many motherboards do come with basic graphics processing on board. However, if you want to watch videos or do anything graphically beyond the basics, you'll suffer without a GPU. In order for all these things to turn on, you need a power supply unit. Everything on a computer uses electricity, and the power supply unit supplies each component with power to use them. Finally, you'll need a case to house all of your components neatly and orderly. Cases vary greatly in size and aesthetics, so pick your own from Design Your Dream PC 2019. And last but not least are the peripherals. Peripherals are inputs and outputs such as keyboard, mouse, and monitor. When you're selecting the appropriate performance level of each of your components, you need to make sure they're compatible with each other. The main component that establishes compatibility is your CPU. There's only a few options for processors for PCs, specifically Intel and AMD. Once you choose which CPU brand that you prefer, the motherboard must be compatible and then each component thereon. The final step of compatibility, which actually is first step and last step, is an operating system. The majority of computers, personal computers, use Microsoft Windows, and next is Macintosh. Now you've identified and selected the components for your new PC, let's put it all together. I'm going to walk you through basics of how to assemble all these parts so that you can begin enjoying your new computer. This is the part that frightens most PC owners or builders, first-timers. However, this is one of the most fun parts. Make sure to collect and have ready all your components. You will only need some basic tools to complete this, such as a screwdriver, Phillips head. Remember that we made sure all these components are compatible, so everything should already fit. Think of it as electronic Legos. Lay your motherboard out on the assembly table. You begin by starting with the CPU, and there are arrows usually on the motherboard and the CPU to help with alignment. Once that's in, you move over to your RAM. Again, there are fitment cues where the RAM sticks can only fit one direction. Once you figure that out, snap those into place. And then depending on the type of storage that you have selected, you can either attach that to the motherboard or it may connect through a cable underneath the case. Now that we've attached those items to the motherboard, we'll install our motherboard into our case. Every case will have multiple alignment holes that will match up with many motherboards. Almost a one size fits most. Once you attach your GPU, the motherboard's in, you attach your GPU. There is a slot on the motherboard for this component as well. Then you move on to the power supply. The power supply will connect individually to each component. And once that's all connected securely, you install your peripherals, boot the computer, and you're ready to install your operating system. Now that we've reached the end of this instruction, I hope you all feel more knowledgeable and confident in how a personal computer works and what some of the components are and their purpose. We learned the importance of how to assess and evaluate our needs and wants from a computer before we begin our build. We know what components a computer needs now to operate, and we also know the importance of assembling compatible parts. Think about how important a computer is to your daily life and studies, your occupation, and your leisure. Computers are tools that aren't going away, and now hopefully you understand you have the power to create and improve the path of your future.